Hello, I'm Dr. Arthur Crosley, and welcome to Real World Pediatrics. So today I want to talk about football. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the game of football. We played it as kids everywhere, on the street and in our backyards. And I love watching the NFL. It's one of the few relaxing things that I like to do. But the NFL has to change. Football has to change. Simply put, the human body wasn't made for the game of football. It's one thing for tiny little kids to play football in the backyard. Little kids don't weigh a whole lot and they can't run very fast, so they're not going to do a whole lot of damage to each other. The problem is when they grow up to become adolescents and adults. A human body wasn't made to have another 200-pound body run into it at 10 miles per hour, which is pretty fast. Now, this is obvious to anyone who watches the sport. It's not just the ACL tears, the collarbone injuries, the shoulder separations, the occasional hand or wrist fracture or ankle injury that is the problem. The problem is also the CTE, or chronic traumatic encephalopathy, that comes about after repeated hits to the head. And let's not stop there. There's a reason why these football players have a shorter lifespan than regular people. This repeated trauma to the body is also doing damage to the connective tissue, bones, and other parts of the body. Look at Earl Campbell, who can barely walk. Professional football players are also more likely to die of cardiovascular disease, especially linemen. Their position requires enormous strength, which places stress upon the heart. Plus, because they are often encouraged to gain weight, they are typically obese. For these reasons, football needs to change. The NFL is not doing enough. Neither is college football. The concussion protocol currently in place is a joke. What's needed after a concussion is rest, and plenty of it. The connective tissue, which helps support the brain in the middle of the head, along with the cerebrospinal fluid, has been damaged. It's obviously damaged because one concussion makes you susceptible to another. So changes are clearly in order. There are a few things that can be done, and if they aren't going to be undertaken in the NFL, they certainly can be undertaken in the school system, which includes college and high school ball. One change would be to institute weight limits on football players so that you don't have an uneven disparity in weight. It's not workable to have one person going up against another who weighs twice as much as he does. And we are getting to the point where we're seeing 400-pound football players. Now that's absurd, and it's also unhealthy for the player, as most of this extra weight is fat. I see this all the time in my office with kids who are playing on high school teams. The ones who are designated to play on the line are overweight as it is, and yet the coach wants this player to gain more weight. Now, I'm not going to blame the coach. His job is to win football games. The problem is the overall context of the sport. Now, injuries will decrease when the weight comes down. Other changes that can be made would be to penalize players who leave their feet in order to make a tackle. In other words, if you want to tackle someone, you have to have the player in the grasp first. On offense, you can't leave your feet to advance the ball. There are too many catastrophic injuries in football because people dive forward, leave their feet, and in effect, transform their head into a battering ram. No more diving. The game can still be exciting. Now, on a personal note, my stepbrother Donnie was very good friends with the brother of a quarterback who played at my high school. The quarterback's name was Buddy Miley. He was 2 years younger than me. I'm 70. Now, Buddy didn't live too far away from where I grew up, although I did not know him personally. Buddy suffered a catastrophic injury to his neck one day while playing football. He became a quadriplegic. This happened in the early 1970s. He suffered this as he was running the ball forward on a quarterback run. Now, this was a sad, avoidable injury. And this injury was and is not an isolated incident. It occurs about 6 times per year in college and high school ball combined. Now, this is 6 times too many. A few years ago, I attended a fundraiser for a group called Gridiron Heroes. These were young men who had suffered quadriplegic injuries to their neck. Now, there isn't much financial help out there for these boys, and they can be forgotten. But we can make their life better by making their life and their injury count for something. We can change the game of football and make it better. Now, if I had a son, I certainly wouldn't have him play football. I would gear him towards soccer or another sport, but not football as it exists today. The human body was not made for football. Thank you.